Hello, just a bit of a catch up. Again, still nothing much going on these days. I was waiting to see if the Ryzen 9000 was going to drop, and it should be dropping any time now. Sometimes with the CPUs, what happens is because there's not much to them, it's basically the chip obviously packaged up, versus what a GPU is, where you have to make the chip. Third-party vendors, they have to obviously make the cases and everything, coolers, and run tests and stuff. So it takes longer with them, so you normally get a bit more of a heads up that it's on the way or it's very close to dropping. With CPUs, they literally just pack them up, stick them somewhere, and then when the pricing's right or the market's right, they could literally release it within a week or two. So sometimes they can just drop out the blue. Not all the time, but sometimes they can. So that could literally be weeks away. The idea was I'm on the 7700 on the Ryzen. I didn't need to move up to the 78 300 version, the 3D version, mainly because I came in at 4K and there wasn't that much of an uptake to justify the move. I did hold off for the 9000, either 9800 or the 9900. But I've just seen a report saying multi-core, great. If you're into rendering, multitasking, all those kind of things, yay. Everything's gone up the way. Looks like they have the power under control versus Intel, who just seem to be making really good fast chips. But you also need a hell of a cooling system to keep that thing under control. And obviously with that, it comes with noise. And anybody who's watched any videos of mine in the past will know that I'm against any kind of noise, as much as possible anyway. So that's one of the things. I would gladly drop 5 or 10 frames versus Intel if I can have a PC that's nowhere near the same kind of noise. So anyway, from what I've seen, yeah, multitask, rendering, all that kind of stuff on the 9000 series, an improvement, but they are saying that don't expect it to be much better or any different from the 7800 3D version, which came out like a year and a half ago, something like that. So, and that is going to be probably, by the time the 9000 drops, that's going to be like half the price probably. So what do you do on the gaming side? For me, it's not worth it going to the 9000 because multitasking and rendering stuff lost on me. No use. Gaming, it's stuck now either between just go for the cheaper 7800 3D and just wait, because how long before the 9800 3D version comes out? It could be a year and a half, it could be a year. It'll depend on Intel. If Intel brings something out and AMD obviously like, oh, we need to beat that, or we need to get something more competitive, they'll push out the 3D version of the 9000 series sooner rather than later. But again, I don't know. I'm guessing a year and a half from the launch of the 9000 series. I'm guessing somewhere between a year and a half when they drop the 3D version, because obviously they're going to want the first versions to sell. They're not going to release them together because it'll steal the thunder. So yeah, so I'm not too sure on that one. I'll wait and see what some of the benchmarks are and some of the results, because on the gaming side, if it's not much different from the 7800 3D, then it's a no-brainer for me. Apart from that, GPUs, it's still up in the air as to whether anything's going to change this year, whether they're going to release the 5090, if I can get my words out, this year or not. I personally think it's pointless this year because there's nothing to sell it. Normally when they release big cards, there's some game. I can go back to like The Witcher. That was a game where they plugged that you really need a high-end GPU, or Cyberpunk. Some big game that was really melting your PC, where you did kind of, if you want it to look this good, you need to upgrade. There's nothing this year. The only one that springs to mind is Stalker 2, which is coming out at the end of the year. That might be the only one where they really push the fact that you need something stronger and better to run it. But it's not enough for me. Again, there's nothing that leaps out to me that's like, oh, I'm upgrading for that. So I usually have a habit of changing with the times when something big comes out. Cyberpunk and Witcher 3 are the main two that spring to mind, where I literally changed systems around just so I could have it as good as it gets. But there's nothing that leaps out at me this year. Obviously, down to Nvidia, what they're planning to do. I mean, they're worth trillions or whatever. So it'll be down to what they're planning and what they think it makes more sense for them to make more money. I really don't know, but for anybody who has a 4090, I don't see the appeal for a 5090 this year, unless you just want bragging rights, because there's nothing you really need it for. And obviously more so the fact because at DLS and obviously AMD have their FSR, it seems to be more and more they're heavily relying on AI to pick up the strain rather than sheer power now. This goes hand in hand with power, because these cards are going to be rated, the 5090s you're probably going to be looking at rated at 600 watts for that. Again, with that comes size of cooler, your PSU, noise. So again, they have to keep it within a realm where it doesn't sound like like you're in a wind turbine, because all your PC are having to work overtime to cool the GPU and then to get rid of the heat out of your case because of how much heat the GPU is dumping. The PSU, obviously, they've got to keep in mind that people don't want to keep having to change the PSUs every time a new GPU comes out. And again, the cost of that as well, and the cost of running this kind of thing. So there's a fine line to walk when it comes to doing these things. I do think they're going to start pushing more and more into the AI side, just so they don't have to go as high on the power. Because if you wanted to run things native 4K and get these kind of frame rates that you can do with FSR and DLSS, I dread to think what kind of power your card would end up having to draw, and just how expensive and how noisy them things would be. So I don't know about the 5090. Even if it does drop this year, I don't see me rushing for it. And it would probably also avoid the first time buy, well, the issues that you sometimes run into when you get your first batch. I've been pretty lucky over the years where I've been an early adopter and I've not had issues. The only thing which I had a major issue was obviously with the 4090 that melted, but that was the cable mod adapter. It wasn't the card, because since I've had all these different cables and done other things, nothing at all. And again, for anybody who can or has had issues with their cables in the past and things, I'd still recommend the cable mod Stealth Sense. Silly name, it's just a marketing thing, cable, because it gets around the design flaws and design issues, if you want to call it a design flaw, with the 4090s. The one I was having where every now and again the screen would go black and the fans would go up to full speed, it wasn't the card melt or anything like that. It was to do with how the cable of the PSU is communicating, and it was tripping things out. It wasn't causing any issues of harm. In fact, that kind of problem's been around for supposedly a decade, with even with the 8 pins it's been around. But what they did with the cable was they found a way to circumvent that, and I've never had an issue since. But yeah. But apart from that, gaming wise, I haven't gone into Elden Ring DLC. I played the main game, but the only problem I find with the Elden Rings and stuff is that it's not family friendly, where you can sit down and just play a little bit and get a little bit further forward in it. I have actually tried the Lords of the Fallen, the sequel one. I know it's been out for like a year or something, and I know it had a lot of issues and hiccups and needed some polishing here and there. I've been playing that one and I've loved it. It's very Dark Souls. I'm not sure how it would. I can see how people probably didn't take to it when it first came out. Some of the things I was reading about it, but it's more in line with what I would call like a standard Dark Souls game now. And really enjoying that one. I've just about finished that. And apart from that, it's all quiet on the Western Front. There's nothing really of note. And it's like a thing where a lot of people have been pointing out recently, where I think a lot of people are going back to playing older games and replaying stuff that they've once done, because there's just nothing at the moment. It's quite a disappointing year at the moment, but hey ho. Anyway, I'm rambling again. So yeah, maybe the next time I'll come back to this, I'll have changed the CPU, because it'll either be the 7800 3D, or if the 9000 series rumours, or from what I've been told, are wrong, and there actually is a good uptake in the graphic side, then might have a look at that as well. And also, yeah, I'm still with the old deep cool. I haven't gone back to trying out the screen one. Was it the Mystique? I think I've got the name now. I think it was called the Mystique. Mainly because of the issues that I ran into, and there's a few things which people didn't like, where obviously I was one of the main ones, where I didn't like the fact that you couldn't change the pump speed, and it meant that your pump was running 100% all the time, and it was audible. You could hear it. So I haven't gone back to have a look at that to see if they've done a version 2, or if they even plan to do a version 2. I am hoping that if they come to do like a souped up version, or a slightly different version of that, if they'll go back to the old way and let us be able to control the pump, even if they just let us to drop it down to say 75%, and then let it ramp up when it needs to, rather than having it 100% all the time. It was such a shame, because it looked great, it worked great, everything, but I just didn't like the noise, and I didn't like the fact that you couldn't change it. It just seemed like a bit of a step back. And the reason was that I was given, and what I think other people were given, was that they didn't want us to play with it in case we broke it. But yet all the other pumps that they've done, going back to, I think it's the Castle, and I think everyone since then, you've been able to alter the pump speed. So hey ho. Right, bye.